Hello and welcome back to Hyperplay. AYANEO, not content with dropping a bomb on the mid-range handheld scene with its super powerful, souped-up Conquer Pocket Fit, is now looking to conquer the budget handheld emulation space with the release of the AYANEO Pocket Air Mini. Let's get straight to it, because the limited time offer is going to be $69.99 for its base Pocket Air Mini offering. And we'll examine the two different configurations of the AYANEO Pocket Air Mini in due course. These are the images that came out today from AYANEO, and the Pocket Air Mini will sport a beautiful 4.2-inch 4x3 1280 by 960 resolution display. And AYANEO are well known in China for the excellence of their screens. A good solid battery in there too. You're going to have a cooling fan because, remarkably, this budget device can do PS2 and GameCube and a little bit of Wii too. More on that soon. The Pocket Air Mini comes with a headphone jack, Hall effect joysticks, and for once, the diminutive size of AYANEO's thumbsticks will actually prove beneficial on a device like this. The Pocket Air Mini will play Dreamcast at 2x resolution and PlayStation and N64 at 4x resolution. And all through their presentation, AYANEO have been at pains to point out that the Pocket Air Mini will have a 27% bigger screen than the Retroid Pocket Mini. Pretty obvious that's the top silhouette. And yes, 4.2 inches is bigger than the 4-inch offerings from, say, ALIEXPRESS. Hilariously, they then go on to compare the 4.2-inch display on the Pocket Air Mini to a mysterious 5-inch 16:9 console, presumably the TrimUI Smart Pro, which has a display that is actually in fact 4.96 inches, but let's round up. No comparison with a 5.5-inch screen like that on the slept on and much beloved by us, Palkiddy X55. The reason they don't compare against 5.5-inch displays is because actually you get perfect SNES integer scaling at 4.8 inches on a 5.5-inch display, so that rather beats the 4.2 inches of the AYANEO Pocket Air Mini, but 4.2 inches will be more than enough. But will the MediaTek Helio G90T be enough to play PlayStation 2 and GameCube? Well, they say here that it's on a par with the G99. I'm much more interested in the graphic coming up here, which has the Pocket Air Mini on the far right and the ALIEXPRESS H700s on the left. So they're saying that the Pocket Air Mini is 7 times more powerful than something like the RG40XXH. Look in the middle there, the Snapdragon 662. That's going to be in the very soon to be released, so we think, Magmi Air X, which is going to come in a very similar price to the AYANEO Pocket Air Mini. But what AYANEO have cleverly done is stolen a march on their rivals, because whilst the Magmi AirX is languishing in seemingly perennial pre-release purgatory, a release date of mid-September is slipping. Now we can see that the Helio 90T actually performs better gaming-wise than the Snapdragon 662 in the Magmi AirX. In fact, twice as well, you can see there. And you can see CPU performance also got it beat, maybe on battery. The Magmi AirX will have the edge, but everywhere you look, the MediaTek Helio G90T in the Pocket Air Mini beats the Magmi AirX's Snapdragon 662. So that is very exciting considering the prices are comparable. These are the games you can apparently expect to play. Pinch of salt, I must say, for those, because we have gone and done our research and found out what the G90T can actually play, given that it has been on mid-range phones since about late 2019, mid-2020. Yeah, it can do some heavy lifting with regard to God of War 2. Obviously, the benchmark for all emulation consoles has to be a God of War game, so why do anything different here? 20 frames per second, yeah, it's not ideal, but for such a budget device to be able to run something like God of War 2, pretty impressive. And maybe you'll soon be able to get fruity with the babes in the hot tub in Sparta, just like old Kratos here. All very bizarre, but you can see the G up there, the G number represents the frames per second. That is how they do it on Ether SX2, and you'll be able to run the Ether SX2 emulator on your Pocket Air Mini. So representative PS2 title there. Another PS2 title that might be able to run quite nicely, albeit at very low settings, is Shadow of the Colossus. Decent frame rates here, although dipping below 20 actually. Again, this is on a G90T phone from back in the day. Do bear in mind that these phones probably had a RAM of about 6 gigabytes. The most RAM you're going to get on the Pocket Air Mini is 3 gigabytes. PS2 and GameCube emulation starts at 2 gigabytes and goes all the way up to 8 for absolutely pitch perfect performance on all the titles, but you can get away with about 3 or 4 gigs of RAM. And the more expensive of the two Pocket Air Mini offerings does come with 3 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of storage, so we do recommend that 3 gigs of RAM option. The Mangmi comes with 4 gigs of RAM but has a much weaker CPU and GPU, and it is the CPU and GPU which is most important for emulating PlayStation 2 GameCube games well. So if you want to hunt down as many PS2 titles as you can, then we do recommend that 3 gig option for the Pocket Air Mini. What about GameCube then? AYANEO did purport that the Pocket Air Mini would be able to play Wind Waker and so on. That's rather doubtful, can't imagine that being flawless. But stop the press, they have just shown Zelda Wind Waker loading up on GameCube, presumably Dolphin emulator, at 30 frames per second. Of course, it's one thing getting good and stable FPS on a title screen, but the proof will be in the pudding. How will the Pocket Air Mini deal with the cut and thrust of gameplay for Zelda Wind Waker? We shall see. One thing the Pocket Air Mini probably will be able to play quite nicely is this little number. We would say Mario Kart Double Dash is pretty much playable on the G90T, and therefore will be as well on the Pocket Air Mini. Metroid Prime, something like Metroid Prime, not so much. That'll be painfully low frame rates, and unfortunately you won't get something as hard and heavy hitting as Metroid Prime to fire, but you will be able to get great frame rates on Super Smash Bros. Melee on GameCube. Superb performance here on the MediaTek Helio G90T. Well over 40 frames per second here, and you can expect the same on the AYANEO Pocket Air Mini as well. Moving right along, and Sega Saturn, yes, we should expect those games to run very nicely on a device like this. Indie games too, they're saying I have controller functionality of something like Stardew Valley. Here's the crib sheet with all the details. One thing we have noticed that's missing: no HDMI out, unfortunately, by the look of it, but for this price, with this lovely screen, it's surely a must purchase anyway. And yeah, we're not being paid by AYANEO to say this, and they'll never send us a device, I'm sure, despite no matter how many times we ask. Not bitter, but even we can afford one of these, and that is the colourway we will be getting, following on from the Pocket Air aesthetic. The Pocket Air, which came with a nice big, I think it was 6-inch screen and had an OLED panel, and this is going to be the perfect miniature mini brother, and this time truly is affordable by everyone. You're going to pick one up? I think pretty much everyone is, aren't they? Especially if they can get hold of that limited time offer. You can go onto AYANEO's website, register your interest, and then a quick box will flash up which we think said you'll get a slip cover or something to go on the device. Whether that means a free screen protector, wowzer, what an amazing free gift. But to be honest, this device is a gift. It looks absolutely gorgeous. Does everything, doesn't it? Well, one more thing. Don't forget the old Magmi Air X. When it is eventually released into the hands of the general populace, then you, like Team Retrogue, will be able to play Final Fantasy XIV via cloud gaming absolutely flawlessly on this $75 device. Do go and watch Team Retrogue's excellent review, which dropped yesterday. I'll put a link in the description. But they have been thoroughly enjoying playing Final Fantasy XIV online through cloud gaming on the Magmi Air X on a nice big screen. That is not something that you can expect the Pocket Air Mini to do. For starters, it's only got a 4.2-inch panel. So, if streaming's important to you, maybe you want to hold off and get the Magmi Air X when it finally releases. We haven't heard great things about the D-pad or indeed the shoulder buttons, but apart from that, the Magmi Air X looks a real beaut, as does the Pocket Air Mini. What a time to be alive, it's finally happening. PS2 and GameCube, admittedly not complete catalogues under $100, but when the starting price is under $70, you just can't argue. We're going to get one of these bad boys as soon as possible. So do save your progress with Hyperplay, subscribe to us, and we'll bring you a full review as soon as we get the new Budget King, the Pocket Air Mini, in hand. Back of the net. Many thanks for watching, and all that remains to be said is happy handheld gaming, whichever air you're taking in. Bye bye.